welcome to a few tomato tips. I've had several people ask me about growing tomatoes, and I've grown tomatoes probably between 35 and 40 years, and I've had some fairly good success in doing that. So I want to pass along a couple of things which may help you along the way. Again, a lot of these are commonly known, and some people really don't practice a lot of these, but I found some of these things very helpful. First thing, if you look at my plants, and again, I've got about 15 to 17 plants, and they're fairly healthy. First thing I do is have to choose the right variety. I found that Bella Rosa and Amelia in our mid-Louisiana environment do very well. They also have a very good disease-resistant package. They're resistant to nematodes and a lot of the soil-borne diseases which we have, and I found those to be very good varieties to grow. But the other things to note is the distance that I have between plants. I try not to crowd my plants so you can get good airflow. So in case you do have a disease outbreak, it doesn't readily transfer from one plant to the next. So I'm looking at about 5 feet between plants. A lot of people want to crowd them up, and once they start having diseases, you have issues, and it goes through their plants in a very fast order. The next thing is look at the mulch. I try to use a nice mulch, and I've got a combination here between cypress and also pine straw that I put right up to the very base of the tomato plant. And I'm kind of a classic gardener in that I don't use tomato cages. I use T-post, and I tie my tomatoes up as they grow higher. I tie them up and have very good access to the fruit as they're ripening down the way. But again, tomatoes are probably the king of the garden, and people are pretty passionate about growing them. And I have, by the grace of God, had good luck every year with my tomato plants. And at this point, spacing, mulching, selecting the right varieties are the biggest keys of everything. Watering needs to be done when, again, we've just started having a dry spell, which this year has been kind of a rare thing. Watering is done generally in the morning. Again, your tomato plants, really, when the sunlight hits them, you start getting active photosynthetic activity, and you need to put some water on the plants in the morning. And what I have underneath here is a soaker hose. Again, you can see the very base down here of my start, and it runs down through my plants, and it curves around the end and comes back all the way. So I water and supply a good source of water to those along the way. I use Osmocote, Miracle Grow, and very little else. I find that the plants do quite well with that. But again, you can see that whenever you start having soil-borne diseases, you'll start having yellowing on the bottom leaves, Fusarium, Alternaria, Anthracnose, various diseases that come up from the soil whenever it rains. These diseases can splash up from the soil and give you some yellowing of leaves. You want to take those off. If you have a diseased plant, in some cases you want to take them away. Bug infestation, again, tomato hornworm, things of this nature. I use generally 7, which is a very benign compound, if you can call insecticide, not necessarily harmful, but only use it as needed. Also, if I have to have a fungicide, I use Daconil, which is, again, chlorothalonil. Again, this is later in the season. Right now, everything is doing quite well. But again, I must stress that choosing the right variety is the main key to having a good crop, especially when you have a lot of diseases and various things which have been transported by other insects. For me to grow heirloom tomatoes is almost impossible because we have so many other diseases in the area, and I can't make fruit with heirlooms. I've done a bunch of those different types, Cherokee Purple, the Black Russian, various types of heirloom tomatoes, and had some success, but not near as good as those that have good genetic packages that are resistant to tomato spotted wilt virus, nematodes, Fusarium, Alternaria. Again, if you buy tomatoes that have good genetic packages, you have a good product. And again, these tomatoes have excellent flavor. They have the nice acid, tomato acid with a little bit of sweetness to it, which is kind of typical of a homegrown tomato. One more note on the planting is tomatoes are sun lovers. So if you have a lot of shade in your garden, you're probably not going to do very well with tomato plants. I'm out here in the garden early this morning. This video was made in 2 parts, and the sun, generally at least a good 8 hours a day, 7 to 8 hours of sun, are pretty much a requirement for a good crop of tomatoes. Again, they love sunlight, and I am in a position right now where I'm kind of bracketed between 2 trees, one big pine tree and one big cypress tree, and I'm just getting 7.5 to 8 hours a day, and my plants are doing well. But I think the midday sun and the direct contact we have whenever the sun's directly overhead has helped me a lot. But a lot of daylight is needed to have a strong, vigorous plant. And again, that's what we're all after. Again, looking at some of these are Saybrook. They are literally loaded up, and again, we're ready for the harvest to begin. Again, we do quite a bit of canning, and of course, being a good neighbor, I give tomatoes to my neighbors and relatives. My daughter asked me the other day when the tomatoes were going to be ready. So with that, we're going to say good day.